I love to be attendant to small things changing. I come down to my garden almost every day and I look for little changes, and some of it is very purposeful around bugs and diseases, but other part is sort of how healthy plants are and how they're changing and what's doing well this year and what's not. And in medicine, particularly with older people, you have to sort of sit there and observe and absorb and then listen very, very carefully to try to figure out what that narrative is, what the longer story is, where people are in this longer journey that they're on.
Dr. Dennis McCullough is a geriatrician and family physician who's worked closely with my grandparents over the last decade or so. He's been a sort of counselor for my family as my grandparents age.
As more and more of us are experiencing these long journeys where somebody who we love is chronically ill.
I had never really gotten to know the elders in my family as real people before. People with emotional lives and stories of love and loss.
I think one of the weird things for me, since being all of a sudden involved in my parents' emotional lives, has been...
You've come to realize how sad
they
are. They're very sad, but it's okay that you're at a different life stage.
I learned the story of how my grandmother Edie cared for her husband Charlie when he was in his late 80s.
The best way I could tell you about Charlie would be to show you the picture of him. The question of growing old with Charlie I never even thought about it. It just was such, we were just made for each other.
I remember when Charlie died. I was around 12 years old, I think. I had absolutely no idea what my grandmother was going through.
One night I was helping him get into his pajamas to go to bed, and even following simple instructions had become difficult. He was so weak, and I would say, well, now, come on, dear, put your right foot into the pajama bottom. I've got the leg here for you. And it would take several minutes before we could get his leg into one part of the pajamas. And so we'd get the bottom on, and then came the top. And all of this would take about a half an hour. And after several tries of getting his left arm into the pajamas, I said, Eureka! And he looked at me with a twinkle in his eyes, and he said, I don't reek.
Hello,
Oh,
Edie.
Dennis, I'm talking
you?
about you.
Lovely to see you.
Oh, gosh, it's so good.
Dr. McCullough shepherded Charlie through his final illnesses, and I had never heard this part of the story before.
I guess he came back to the health center first.
He did. He was
And
there, and that's when we had a very difficult conversation, right?
You told me that
Yeah.
he had Alzheimer's.
I
just
yeah.
burst into tears.
And
I was so
I thought it was more
dumb.
gentle than that, but basically, I think the delirium had pulled back a certain curtain, and it showed how vulnerable his brain was. And that's when we had that discussion, and I said, I think, Edie, we are heading down a different pathway here.
And I had a hard time hearing that. I'm remembering it, but I had a hard time assimilating what you were basically saying to me, in spite of the fact I was living with this.
The standard medical model emphasizes efficiency because it's really tied in with the economics of medical practice. It's designed to pick out one problem and say the problem is X, it's the cancer. It doesn't say the problem is, as with Charlie, it's not the cancer, the cognition problem, the bowel problem that's still going on.
Just keep me comfortable, Charlie said. I'm ready.
Just look at the statistic. What's going to happen to me? I'm going to have something go wrong with my heart at some point. What am I going to do at that point? What am I going to do now at 67? What am I going to, or 66? What am I going to do when I'm 77 or 87? People are coming to realize that just staying alive is not necessarily the goal. That even for the sake of your grandchildren, you should let go of this at some point. What's the legacy you're going to leave? What's the last gift you're going to leave to your family? In a sense, it's the gift of knowing how to die.